Sundance was very brave to change locations. We went on a bit of a reconnaissance mission to Boulder to see what it would be like. And it's really positive. It's a university town. It's not a ski town. So there will be a very young community. It feels very positive, which I think is really great right now for so many reasons.
Bronwyn Cosgrave, welcome to Visionary. It's great to have you with us all the way from Sundance, where it's very snowy at the moment. Aside from the weather, I wonder what the mood in Park City this year, with Robert Redford gone and Sundance about to leave Utah, what that feels like.
I think it feels very positive. My husband, John Sloss, is a formative figure in the mythology of Sundance. He, with a few other sales agents and film executives, really created the financial market at Sundance to sell documentaries and feature films and really nurture the generation of filmmakers who I would say are now elder statesmen, but really created the culture of Sundance films. So I feel like I have a really privileged position. I also produce documentaries and have worked on some independent features, so I'm attuned to the climate. I would say it was a very brave decision after over 40 years. I think Sundance has been here since the festival. Robert Redford founded it in 1978. It's a long time, and COVID, the pandemic, really, it shook up community, our world. And all film festivals, I think with the exception of Cannes and Venice, really had to step back and think, how do we reinvent the wheel? And Sundance was very brave to change locations. I went to Boulder, Colorado last year before the Telluride Film Festival, which is another fantastic festival in Colorado. But we went on a bit of a reconnaissance mission to Boulder to see what it would be like, the facilities. And it's really positive. It's a university town. It's not a ski town. So there will be a very young community. Young people, as I'm sure you're aware, are rediscovering the power of independent film. So I think it feels very buoyant here. There's a lot of boots on the ground. Executives are staying all through the festival until Friday. Typically, they would arrive, say, Thursday, leave on Tuesday morning. So it feels very positive, which I think is really great right now for so many reasons.
Why move at all, though?
Well, first of all, Park City is a ski town. It is typically, I wouldn't say there's friction, but there's like there was a little bit of back and forth with the community who felt the festival with its parties and everything else was infringing upon the locals. So I think that was part of it. But again, I just think it is time for a change. All these festivals have to reinvent, like everything else.
What did Robert Redford understand about the role of festivals and how they shape film culture?
I just think for so many reasons, Robert Redford fell in love with Park City. He developed a beautiful resort and really as an entrepreneur, merged all of his great loves. He made some remarkable movies with auteur directors all through his career. And he took his profession, film, his interests in positively shaping an artistic community in a wilderness area. And really, it flourished from there. His daughter, Amy Redford, is on the board of Sundance, and she's really front and center this year. She's an actress as well. Her mother was an environmental activist. So there's a lot of, continuity here as well. I think there is just a real desire with the passing. I mean, the the idea to move was considered before Mr. Redford's passing. So I think it's just really about new beginnings and change. But Robert Redford really, I think it was about merging all of his passions into
Mm.
something that I think developed beyond anything he really thought was possible.
And I mean, passions for him for both documentary and for fiction. And I wonder if now we're seeing that documentaries are the real prestige currency at festivals, much more than dramatic features.
I wouldn't say so entirely. Documentaries, we are in a golden age of documentary. I think AI is going to enhance perhaps the urgency and desire for genuine, uh, truthful storytelling, which I think documentaries are a great documentary can so powerfully do, like you know, outclassing any other medium. But documentaries with the kind of merging of streamers, conservatism governing media right now, they're really challenged. The day when, my husband set a record at Sundance for selling a documentary called Knock Down the House, which was funded by grants. He sold it for $10 million. It was about, you know, women in government. It chronicled the rise of AOC. That day, it's still continuing, but it's challenged. And these streamers are extremely choosy. And the direction they've gone in, if you'll just see Netflix with, say, RJ Cutler's documentary on Martha Stewart, or the rise of all of the sort of celebrity-driven documentaries that you're seeing, the Beckhams, et cetera, it's gone really premium. So they're investing millions in these really big budget docs. And the smaller ones, which are potentially the most interesting ones, some that you will see that have got Oscar nominations, like Mr. Nobody versus Putin, something like that. Or The Perfect Neighbor, which was all made from body cam footage. Those are the two. Well, The Perfect Neighbor is the front runner for an Oscar this year. Those films are harder and harder to sell, believe it or not. Like The Perfect Neighbor was not, but we're not in an era where you're seeing a lot of documentaries in cinemas. There was a time when that was happening. And now it's difficult, but I will say with the arrival of the Duchess of Sussex and Prince Harry at Sundance over the weekend with their documentary, which was called Cookie Queens, which is about Girl Scouts, that really sent a boost and created a sensation at Sundance, which I think is fantastic for the documentary market.
I want to return to what you were saying about Oscars in just a moment, but
Sure.
this discussion of the sort of the commercial, the huge streamers, and all the rest of it, and all of those big and big budget documentaries being pushed out, is that why smaller events like Sundance actually function as very valuable launch pads for global distribution, where you do get smaller documentaries reaching a much wider audience, which wouldn't do that unless it came through the fire, if you like, of Sundance.
Yeah, it is a fire. It's about buzz. Okay, that's an old word, but that's what it's about. And eventizing documentaries. Last night, I was I just caught the tail end of a marvelous documentary about Marianne Faithfull. I think it's just called Marianne. Sorry, my brain's a bit fuzzy because of the altitude. But, Rufus Wainwright and Nora Jones were on stage performing a tribute to Marianne Faithfull. There was probably 1,000 people in the cinema. I mean, it was packed to the rafters. And that's the kind of thing. And that documentary is in the market. It's marvelous. It's screened at the London Film Festival. But yes, these festivals are crucial it's an art film. Tilda Swinton is in the dramatic reenactments of that movie. It's really fantastic. But, that is crucial for films that, say, don't have the massive marketing budgets behind them that the likes of Netflix and Apple and Amazon, for example, with the Melania Trump documentary, that those projects have.
Mm,
So,
mm.
yes, but it's extremely difficult to get films into festivals today. So there are alternatives like YouTube, for example. YouTube now is considered Netflix's biggest competitor. And with a kind of path to market that's really smart and savvy, one can drop a doc on YouTube and generate millions of viewers.
Does that make festivals redundant as
No,
distribution
no,
engines?
no. Festivals are about community. And I think today, when what we see in our world is the biggest examples of community are protests, right? And not necessarily peaceful protests. You know, events like film festivals, fashion week, art fairs. I personally feel that these type of events, they're extremely expensive to participate, but will take on a new meaning in our kind of fractured and uncertain world.
Mm. Yeah, people want to be together and they want to have that
Yes.
shared experience, don't they?
And a dialogue, a dialogue. They're crucial for perpetuating the cultural conversation.
Let's return to the Oscars because the nominations were announced on the first day of the
Yes.
festival, and several films had premiered at last year's Sundance, including 5 documentaries. So I wonder how important the sort of glitzy awards season, the whole kind of Hollywoodness of it, is to those on the ground at Sundance.
It's important and it's very competitive. The doc branch is ruthless. That's the doc branch of the Academy that votes. And it's gold. It can transform a director, producer's livelihood. They can go on and branch out to do so many different things. An Oscar makes a film professional a cultural figure and a public figure. And it just, in the documentary community, where it's increasingly hard to find finances, those Oscar winners can go on and put their might behind smaller films. And a lot of them do that. So, um, it's a very important thing. And I just often think about, the category of documentaries and at the Oscars. And I do go to the Oscars every year. And I've written a book which is called Made for Each Other. It's the first fashion history of the Academy Awards. And so I've got a real kind of expansive take and long view about the Oscars. And documentaries used to be lost. They were never they were never as prestigious as as Best Picture, right? Or international features, which are now too like massive. But just because of a few films, and I would really say films like, if you think about Asif Kapadia's film Amy, which was that was a challenge to get that film to market in the United States. But that really, I do think, had a hand in elevating, but also delivering a younger audience to documentaries and expanding what, say, a celebrity documentary, a celebrity-driven documentary could really be. And that is what all documentaries are, in essence, a genuine human story.
Mm, mm. You were talking about Best Picture and international movies. So I remember when Parasite was released. That was back in, I think it was
Yes.
2019. So, of course, that
Yes.
was foreign language, it was South Korean, but it had the prestige of having premiered at Cannes. It went on to win Best Picture at the Oscars. It was the first foreign language film to do so. Do you think that that prestige uh, is the real cultural cachet offered by festivals like Sundance?
Yeah, I think, when Parasite dropped at Cannes, and what I love about Cannes, all these festivals have their own identity. And I think what is just so special about the Cannes Film Festival is it is about world cinema. So you, like no other festival, you see films from all corners of the world, and they all have a sort of sheen of glamour and sunshine around them. So everyone's going to see films from Mongolia, Africa, Greenland, you name it, right? They're from all over. They don't necessarily, Cannes doesn't necessarily have a buoyant doc market, but they do get docs there. But I think when that film, what happens is in Cannes, there are executives from all over the world, particularly Hollywood, which really does have the United States. It really does have the clout to propel a film to reach global audiences. And films there aren't really judged as international or American. It's a movie, right? And I think what Parasite was a completely fascinating, beautifully artistic, gripping thriller. And that's why it won. It wasn't about the language, right? In addition to that, the Academy, the Oscars, which I think is really gets lost in the dialogue where the public gets really angry about films and talent that gets snubbed. But the Oscars really does have a global vision. And in 2028, the Oscars will be on YouTube, right? So they're no longer relegated to American television. So everyone around the world is going to be able to watch the Oscars in real time, which I think is fantastic. Hence, this focus that the categories need to broaden, and films of all languages and people from all walks of life will be participating in the Oscars increasingly.
Mm. Bronwyn, though, I wonder how much Oscar success really depends on how much is spent on a campaign and how devoted the people, the stars of the show are to turning up and doing the publicity.
Yes.
And if that is something, if that's a trait that then is played out by selection juries at festivals.
It's a very good point, Georgina. And I think this is what sort of, it doesn't bug me, but it's just sort of, I feel that it needs to be part of the narrative about the Oscars, is that it's not about the best or, even the highest grossing film. It's about the best campaign, right? And campaigns take money, as we all know, with elections, right? But they're also, the campaigns have to be really smart. So there can be films with very small budgets. Look at Blue Moon. That was made in a matter of days in Dublin with a very small budget and a lot of subsidies. And that got two Oscar nominations, screenplay and Ethan Hawke, best actor. He's a front runner too. He could come out from behind. That's in the air right now. So it's really about the people behind, the front runners and the stars. Like, what are the machinations? What are what are the maneuvers behind the scenes? And it's a very small, this is the other thing. It's a very small voting body. So this is a popularity contest with a very small group of voters, and voters who, I don't think the Golden Globes is as important as people think, but they start watching, oh, what's winning? What's this looking like?
So then, in terms of the criteria for getting into a festival,
Yeah.
does it work in the same way? Does influence play out in that way?
Influence. Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, it's strategy at the end of the day. And, I'm not in the war room, right? And I'm also not a voter. So, but it really is about just positioning and marketing. And, really, I personally think, a great story, always wins at the end of the day.
Mm. You were talking about how every festival has its own identity. So Cannes is one thing. Obviously, Sundance is another. Venice has a completely different feeling, and a lot of it is down to location.
Mm.
So, in terms of Sundance, the city itself looks quite different during the festival, and many of the shops are rented by brands. There was a picture of a
Yes.
local brasserie that was completely taken over by Chase Bank for the whole month.
Yes.
Talk to me about that transformation that takes place during the festival.
I don't love it. It's
Well,
sort of
clearly nor did the residents.
they're not happy about it, I would say. Yeah, it Main Street, it gets pretty crazy. But it also brings a lot of business to the community, and it's down to drivers, caterers, people in the coat check, you name it. People that want to live in a ski town, right? And they supplement their income. And, in all of these glamorous locations that have festivals, there's always a bit of friction with the community and the takeover. But then again, it's a trade-off because, like, even down to the yoga instructor is getting more business because of Chase Bank, right? But I will say it's like, if you think about the Oscars pre-shows when they become enveloped by the conversation around fashion, which are really brands at the end of the day, and it is down to the festival to manage it and to make sure that the dialogue and the kind of narrative remains about what it is truly about, right? And that involves coaching the corporates that are turning up to, like, tone down their marquees. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big thing.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's going to be a bit of an economic blow for the traders of Park City.
Well, this is a billionaire zone. Houses sell here for the likes of $28 million. I mean, it is crazy here. And, it will find its own way. There will be another thing that will come. I mean, the great thing, actually, what I was talking to Amy Redford a couple of days ago, and the Producers Lab, which is a really important summer event that takes place at the end of July. It's sort of a schools out kind of thing. It's like right before everyone takes off for August. But it is a, long weekend where young filmmakers, filmmakers with, that are promising on the rise, get together with experienced filmmakers and, producers and workshop projects. And a lot of great films come out of that. And that will remain in Park City. And it is the Sundance Lodge, which is where it first began. So that is something I think that is really great. And who knows, maybe there will be an element back here again, but, times change.
Of course they do, and progress is good. But I wonder then if being in Boulder will fundamentally change the character of the festival in any way.
It probably will, but for the better. But, it's the same. This is the thing. Sundance has a very robust board of, film industry professionals, veterans, visionaries, what have you, who really care about the festival and are the kind of governing body. And then equally, the programmers are second to none. They take their job very seriously. So, this is a very well managed festival that will shape its identity and evolve it in the manner in which it needs to change.
Bronwyn, thank you. That's Bronwyn Cosgrave. Thank you so much for joining us on Visionary.
My pleasure.